in Hong Kong. What?
Wait, this isn't Tokyo?
We are going live. We're live right now. We've been live for like years. Hi, everyone. What's up? My name is Speedy. Welcome to NotSoSpeedRuns. We are here with Blades in the Dark 6 and 20, our Season 3 premiere. We are back. We are down one Joff today, but we are up one Kitty, who will be introducing in a second. It's good to see you guys back. We've been off for a few weeks on hiatus, in between seasons and whatnot. Feels good to be back, and we're doing whatever it is that we're about to be doing here. Let's go ahead and get started, as we always do, by going around to our cast and crew, starting with the one and only, no, still you.
You can try, but it's always going to be you first, Tren.
Do or do not. There is no try.
So, it used to work so much better when I first started doing that. When I got to the point where I first started looking at the people I was talking to, in the thing. And this is over on Arvin Elron's channel, where I do a lot of other stuff when I'm not here. There was one guy in the audience who it freaked him out that I would be looking at the person that I'm talking to on the screen, and he's like, "Why do you do that? They're not actually over there." I know. See this reaction I'm getting from you? That's why I do it. Anyway, so I'm Trent Sparks. I'm a professional voice actor person thing. And audiobook narrator, I think is how they say it in French. Narrator. And I'm going to be playing a whisper named, well, not a whisper, for this, Hocus, who will probably have to abandon his street name, because where they're going, nobody knows him by that.
What about your rail name?
Yeah, he'll have to start using. I mean, his entire family will. They're not going to call him Hocus. There's no way in hell they're going to call it. They're like, no, we're not going to call it that.
That's not the name your mother gave you.
Exactly. Exactly right. But yeah, there's that thing, and so we're on a train. And we're bound for Point South. Speaking of South, in the Southern Hemisphere, we have Madam Gandalf down there, who is... You smell so clean.
It's like I just got out of the shower after being there for like an hour.
You're not even pruny. That's very cool.
Right? You should see my feet, though. It's kind of a mess down there. But, hi, my name is Madam Gandalf, and what Trent is talking about is I just got out from doing a singing in the shower stream, and that was interesting. But I am a full-time streamer here on Twitch as well. I play D&D all around. I do talk shows here and there, and overall I'm just really glad that we're back here doing this, because I've missed this crew and I haven't seen these faces since November 9th. It's like been a month. It's been like an entire month. And that is unacceptable. So I'm glad we're back. And unfortunately, Joff isn't here. But we have a new person, so I'm really excited to introduce Awkward Kitty.
Hi. Hello. Hi, how's it going? I am Awkward Kitty Inc. I'm excited to be here. I'm very excited.
You sound so excited right now.
Listen, no, I am really excited to be here. It's been a while since I've done some stuff like this, and we've been building up to it and discussing characters, and I've got a lot of surprises in for everyone. But no, I'm a full-time broadcaster, here on Twitch, as well as a freelance artist. Huh?
That's the word.
It is.
Why are you looking over there?
Yeah.
There's nothing over there. I'm up here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Technically, he's above you right now, but
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good to have you as a part of this thing.
Yeah, you sound thrilled too. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's having a great time. Kitty's here visiting me for like a week or so.
He's already tired of me. That's why he's quiet.
So this won't be our setup every time, but this is our setup this time, which I think is pretty swell.
It's gross. Is what it is.
It's really
disgusting.
disgusting.
It smells.
Listen.
Okay.
But I am playing as Sky. I'm Speedy, by the way.
Oh, I didn't
Just
introduce
my channel.
myself. Did my character? Did I?
Wait, what?
I didn't introduce my character.
No, that's fine. You shouldn't.
Okay.
It'll be a surprise
Good.
to everyone.
Good.
But I am playing as Sky, the spider, a man who wants revenge on the whole city of Duskfall and pretty much everyone for the sake of his dead sister. And he has pretty violently and flagrantly been willing to just destroy things up until this point. For that cause. And things are sort of changing in a way as he's come to realize that he might have a way to, in some way, save his sister instead. But that still remains to be seen. I'll turn things over now to the one and only Johnny, VideoStoreCowboy. Greg, thank you for that sub.
Yeah.
Oh, that
What?
Jack guy.
Yeah, that guy from that other show that's vaguely related. Welcome back, guys. First and foremost, I want to welcome Kitty to this little crazy experiment. I hope we don't drive you crazy, because we are known for driving people crazy.
It's a short trip.
Wait, what's a short trip?
Going crazy.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I thought you were talking about the trip between Duskfall and the Imperial City.
No.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna start this off by talking a little bit about what happened last time, and then I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions to get started. When we previously found you, the crew was in quite a precarious set of circumstances. We had Ari and Sling, who were in the room with Chaos, and it was a bit of a shock and a surprise, but also gave Louise's character Sling, who was also possessed by a demon of sorts by the name of Esther, the opportunity to fulfill essentially a long-standing desire, of which she did. Esther / Sling killed Chaos. He went down, and then she ended up again taking out Mother May, who nobody seems to have really kind of dug into who she was or what was going on, but Sling / Esther decided that's probably a good idea. Let's just do that anyways. In response to that, the world changed, right? There were two incredibly loud, thunderous cracks of lightning that played across the sky. One was white, one was golden. Or no, sorry, one was white, one was red. My mistake. And you were able, Ari and Sling were able to make their escape back to the HQ, the recently acquired HQ for the Phantom. Then, deciding that you wanted to follow up on the ritual that was going to be performed at your event, Coachella, you found yourselves in Onkar Park dealing with a really unusual set of circumstances. The ritual ring, this entirely large ritual ring that was found at the park, was filled with bodies. Next to it was the Willowy Woman and Talk, the Red Dwarf, with their minions attempting to do a ritual to prevent something from happening. That something was a Leviathan, a gigantic Leviathan, attacking Duskfall, which eventually broke through the lightning barrier and subsequently made its way towards Onyark, the park. Excuse me. I'm having problems tonight. Okay. You had made your escape prior to that at the prompting of Talk, and as you were on your way back towards your rail car, there was another crack of lightning, and the Leviathan attacked, and then the attack subsided as it, for some mysterious reason, died. Returning to the HQ, the rail car, you decide to actually make your escape outside of Duskfall. And in making your escape outside of Duskfall, it turns out that Sling's contact from Taikarosi arrived in an attempt to retrieve her. And it was a poignant reunion, giving her an opportunity to go home and find Loman, her lost love, her significant other, her something beyond what anybody could really understand. And she said her tearful goodbyes and left Duskfall. And then we found the rest of you making your way on the rail car to an unknown destination, with a little bit of hesitation on Hocus's part, as he pondered the circumstances of the Spirit Warden offer, as he got onto the carriage or onto the car itself.
Is that a question?
That's a question, because it was uncertain at the end of last episode.
Well, we were joking about Hocus getting on.
We were joking, but it was still uncertain.
Well, he got into the car.
You
Okay.
better.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly.
All right, well, bye. New character.
By the way,
Okay.
I'm moving to Shroud.
Oh no, we got Louise all over again.
No terrible goodbye. It's just Hocus is just gone.
So now the train car has been attached to a train heading south, with the ultimate destination of that particular train going to Eruvia. But first, it's going to make its initial stop in the Imperial City. So where we open is finding all of you, besides Sling, on that rail car, about to pull into the rail station at the Imperial City. What's the tone? What's the mood? How is everybody feeling? It's been a couple of days traveling, and been a harrowing journey because of all of the chaos of the Deathlands.
I know that for Ari, she's probably just kind of tired and confused and probably nervous for one of the few times ever, because she's never been outside of Duskfall. She's never been anywhere else. She's just grown up where she's grown up and been there her whole life. So going to new territory and somewhere where she doesn't know a quick escape route, or somewhere where she doesn't have any contacts, where people don't know who she is or who she's connected to or what her reputation is. This is kind of nerve-wracking. So she's going to be on her defensive a bit.
Does that mean to the cheese? I mean, is there a bit of consolation that where she's consoling herself with drink or with something else, or is she just idle and nervous and just something that's completely unlike Ari before, which is Ari always seems, no matter how uncertain the circumstance, she seems in control.
I think to make up for the lack of control she feels that she has right now, she's probably drinking quite heavily to make it seem like she still is like, haha, this is fine, guys. No panic honking from me. Like, yeah, she's probably drinking to be more out there than she actually feels.
Mm-hmm. Hocus?
Hocus is very... The closer they get to Eruvia, the more he seems a little more anxious. I mean, he's he's traveled this route once before, going from Aruvia up to Duskfall, but that was 20 years ago. So it's been a little while, and the last time he was outside the lightning shield of Duskfall, things did not go well. So
to say the least.
He's not real thrilled about being outside again, though now railjacks, and there are other people who are capable, not to belittle everybody else's abilities that they're slowly learning with dealing with ghosts and whatnot, but the railjacks are the only people that on this train that he really knows of who are capable of dealing with spirits at the level that he is. So having others around who have that ability is a little bit comforting, but there's still this the remembrance that the last time he was outside for any length of time, aside from their attempt to escape Duskfall, he spent 3 days in the company of a demon that is still hunting him, and it's out here somewhere, most likely.
Okay, that brings me to an interesting thing that I think would be fun for as you all are kind of describing what's going on, and we'll get to Sky in just a second. What is the experience on the train like? I mean, this is the first time in the game where anybody has taken a trip outside of Duskfall and it be completely outside of Duskfall. I mean, it's not like stepping outside the lightning barrier and going to the Lost District or going to, the old North Port. This is way outside a lightning barrier. And so what is that experience like? I mean, can any of you describe, maybe the frightening nature of that? Because you're essentially exposed to everything that's out in the Deathlands. And for most citizens of the Empire, they're told horror stories. They're told these lavish tales. And the question is, how much of that is real?
Well, first of all, this could be establishing precedent for how the trains work or not. And I'll open this up to the
Please do, because you and I actually briefly talked about this previously. If I think you're going to bring up what you're going to bring up, so
that most of that each train has a sort of lightning shield for it, and it is primarily in the engine. And then as the train moves, there are cables that run down the length, very similar to the cables that are on most lightning hooks and whatnot. But the further you get from the train, the weaker it becomes. So people who can afford the greater protection are closer to the engine. Now fortunately, our carriage or our train car has ghost locks on it. So we don't, spiritual locks and everything. So we're more protected in there than we are in some, and depending upon where our car is in the length of the train, we would also gain some protection from the thing. But that's part of the maintenance of the train. Whenever you add in a new car, you have to hook up the cables and make sure that everything's running correctly. Whenever you stop somewhere to refuel, part of what the railjacks do is they walk along and make sure that everything's still working properly, so that you don't get half the back of the train ripped off by a land leviathan when it's like, oh, that one's not protected, kind of thing. So,
what are those protections on the train, and what is specifically different from the rest of the cars and the railjack car then?
You mean our car?
Yes.
Well,
because your car is a decommissioned railjack car. It's a railjack bunk, and it has bunks, it has a workstation, it has all the tools that a railjack would use to be able to help maintain a train during transit. But what does that look like on the outside? What kind of protections does that provide? On top of what your HQ already has, which I believe is it has spectral locks and then physical locks as well.
Right. And when we first acquired the car and we were spending a bit of time there, I had mentioned during gameplay that a lot of Hocus's time there, he's reinforcing or replacing the arcane locks, right, so that our HQ would have it again, because we had it on the warehouse, but we didn't have it on the car. Speedy, were you going to say something in there?
No, I was basically just going to say what Johnny said, that it was a decommissioned railjack car, and so the protections that are on it were, even though the railjacks are not like the higher class, they're not the ones closest to the front, they put them in the back, but they put extra protections on it because they're the ones who really need it, so they can protect everyone else.
All I know is that our biggest mistake was not having an on-cart bar.
Well, yeah.
Big mistake there.
But it does give you reason to travel through the rest of the train. So
We've got booze.
yeah.
The bar.
I would also say that somewhere inside the decommissioned, because the train will probably have its own railjack car. Ours being decommissioned doesn't count as their railjack car, so we will basically be the second railjack car that's on the thing. I would imagine that somewhere inside of railjack cars there are places where you can plug in spirit bottles and stuff to fuel whatever lesser protections the railjack car has. So what actually went through my head at one point was something is, you know, coming after the train, and you've got just a group of railjacks leaning outside, just holding onto the car and leaning out over the edge of the tracks and just hooking things as they're going by, and then just taking their bottles and plugging them in, and it just lights the car up again. It's like, all right, go ahead, try to come in. Go ahead.
Well, so that's an interesting point of precedence there. Previously, everything is about spectral energy in the form of ectoplasm. You're talking about harnessing spirits and whatever spectral energy is out there in its raw form and then using it. Does that mean that, not to go too far down the precedence or story building point, but does that mean that railjacks have a very different approach than Sparkrights in respect to the tools that they use?
I would think that they have to. I mean,
okay.
they don't have the luxury of having, you know, a dedicated laboratory where they can, you know, like a big building where they can purify electroplasm to its greatest, you know, consistency. They have to be able to do rough and ready stuff with whatever limited space they have that's always on the move. So their hooks are probably, like I had mentioned one point, I think it was towards the end of season 1 or maybe early in season 2, that one of the things that Hocus has, one of the adjustments that he's made to his lightning hook is that he can either gather a whole spirit and it retains its personality, or it pulps whatever is in there and there's nothing but energy, and whatever consciousness there was to it is gone. But he doesn't like using that because it's horrible.
Right. And that's, we've only seen that, we've only seen you try to use that once before you actually made a modification for slicing.
Right.
And that had some disastrous effects too.
Yes, it did. And it would basically be like using crude oil instead of, you know, in a car engine. So therefore the railjack cars need more maintenance because they're using cruder methods and what.
Right. So I'll set all that precedence there. That's going to bring up some things that are going to happen during the trip, depending upon how far the trip goes for you guys, whether you make it all the way to Aruvia or not. That's the technology. That's what the cars. What is the experience of the ride feel like for both, you know, for all three of you? Because with Jinx not here tonight, you all get to basically set the precedence of what that actually means. I mean, is it there are violent attacks against the train? Does it shake the train on the tracks? You know, are there just unimaginable horrors in the form of noises that you hear that just petrify you? Or is it, you know, what is that experience like? Because again, establishing story here, nobody in the game has been in the Deathlands yet.
I imagine it more that it's more sounds and maybe some shuddering. It's almost like when there's turbulence on a plane, where it feels scarier than actually how safe you really are.
Right.
And that's kind of how I was imagining it. Just a lot of creaking, moaning, shaking of the cart now and then, that to a point where it feels like it's going to go off the tracks or something. Yeah. But actually we're okay. It's just not fun. Right. Probably praying to everything under the sun that we may or may not know exists.
I would agree with that. I think I like the turbulence comparison, but it's like the car is shaking and there's loud rattling noises, and then throw on, like, if you were in an airplane and there was turbulence and you heard screaming from outside every time.
Yeah. Oh god. It is. It's turbulence with screams.
Yes.
Guys, I'm never leaving the city. I'm never leaving the city like that. No way.
Well, I would imagine actually Jinx, I mean, aside from Hocus, Jinx is probably the only person who's probably been on a train. Because I imagine Jinx probably has been leaving from Skullblend and whatnot. And
I imagine that Jinx may have been sipping from a flask quietly during this whole thing, but not showing anywhere near as much fear as maybe Ari might be kind of twitchy. I think she'd be quite twitchy during this time. Yeah.
Hocus is staying in the car as much as possible, and if he has to leave, he tends to stay in the middle of whatever car he goes to, so that whatever's going to reach in through the window will grab someone else first.
I imagine that there's a story behind that for Hocus's first trip, so at some point we'll have to ask that. But what about Sky? How is the trip treating Sky?
So I think first getting on the train, he would be anxious but trying to maintain some sense of normalcy, and like immediately trying to like batten down and just talk about, you know, where to go next rather than whatever just happened, and sort of plan things a little bit. But as the train goes on and it, you know, drags on for days, he loses the kind of will to really do that anymore, to continue trying to act like things are normal, especially, you know, as he tries to sleep at night with the sounds of screaming from outside. I think by the end of it, he, and I imagine pretty much everyone, is just kind of silent and just like waiting for it to end.
So one other question that goes along with Sky is, does your sister have a reaction to it? I mean, she's still in the bottle, but being in a place where there is probably a lot more spectral energy than she's ever experienced before, does that shake her at all?
I would say yes, and that actually brings up another point that I was considering, which is that now that we have this lair again that has the spiritual protections on it, he would probably let her out of the bottle. Because that's how she was before. It was just in the basement of Donovan's before.
Correct.
At this point, he would want to, because she's trying to be reconciled, he would want to kind of try to let her feel more normal and not be trapped in a bottle again. And so he would be letting her out and like let her have a bunk of her own.
That's it. I'm getting drunk with your sister.
Doesn't seem happy about that.
No, I'm sorry. I just immediately hear da 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 da.
Made last night about Nye. So I was just going to say that it seems like that probably would have some effect on Ari in a very positive way, because the two of you had established a relationship previously as a part of the reconciliation that's going on for his sister. So
finding out more about Sky through the sister and all of that jazz. And yeah, so I can imagine that a lot of the time it seems like she may be kind of muttering to herself, but those who are attuned can see that, yeah, she's actually talking away with Sky's sister and probably complaining a lot. Probably kind of treating the sister like an agony aunt right now. Like, dear Jenny, today no.
Yeah. I think Sky would be fine with that, honestly, because I think he wants to try and be there for his sister, but he still doesn't really fully know how to interact with her, and
right.
So having that sort of relief from you being able to talk to her would be quite nice.
And just being so nonchalant about it. Oh yeah, you're a ghost, whatever.
It gives her a friend, you know. It's
ghosts are friend, not ghouls. Yeah.
Okay, so I have one final question as we move into the story proper. Is there a window or some sort of viewport on the car itself? Is that something that is a part of a standard railjack compartment, or is it something?
You know, the classic caboose where it's the car and it's got the little tower on the top.
Ooh, yeah.
Where the windows are.
Okay, that makes sense.
I like the idea of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because as a railjack car, it should have something like that, so the railjacks can actually see out without having to like leave their bunk.
Right.
But having it in like the actual living space would be disturbing for anyone.
I absolutely 100% agree. So it's been a couple of days, right? You've been traveling in this manner for a couple of days. It's been probably 3 days. Not the bunny. It's been about 3 days since you left Dulsquall and you left Sling behind, and you left the tragedy and crazy chaos of Dulsquall behind. And it's about as your wits are about about your wits' end. There's the tolling of a bell on the train that usually flags as that it's indicated that it's coming into port or coming into a station. And when you hear that, you all kind of perk up a little bit because it means a little bit of relief. It means entering inside of a lightning barrier. The noises are no longer going to bother you. The shaking and rattling will slow and then eventually cease as you come, to a stop inside of the lightning barrier and get a moment's reprieve. After talking to the one of the railjacks while you were, making some, changes while you were in White Hollow, doing some quick maintenance on your own car as it was happening, that the stop in the Imperial City will probably end up being about a day, about a 24-hour turnaround period of time. And that's for some retrofitting because of some damage that was done to the engine itself. And there's not a spare engine that they can replace it with as far as they know on the schedule. So when they're coming in, the expectation is to be there for 24 hours. But there's something that strikes you after the bell. There is a faint glow that is coming through the ports in the little, essentially, tower part above the car itself. And so for whoever goes and looks, that glow is coming from the Imperial City. And it strikes you and takes your breath away because the glow is that of electroplasmic lamps and lights lighting the city in a brilliant glow. This isn't like anything that you've seen except for the possibility of White Crown in the distance across the canal between Brightstone or the docks and White Crown. This is a fantastic, brilliant glow that covers the entire city, and the light shines through beyond the lightning barrier. And so in excitement, each of you get a chance to take a look at this, and it is overwhelming. And when someone decides to check, the time, if you've got a timepiece, you check the time, you realize that the time is that of the 7th hour. So it is during the day. In doing all of that, you realize that they change, that they maintain this brilliance in some way, shape, or form. They maintain this brilliance for a long period of time, right? Because for the next hour, actually, because you're at a distance, you come in as into the 8th hour into the city as you pull through the lightning barrier, and you see this. You see this crazy brilliance as the train begins to slow. How are each of you reacting to this? I mean, what is this like to come into a place where it's so brilliant and bright and it's lit like this? I mean, the entire city appears to be this way.
This is something.
Did I die? Did we die? This place is bright and I don't like it.
This is something the Hocus has seen before, right? They've been doing this for a while, I imagine.
You would have seen this once before, but I think in a lot of ways wouldn't have Hocus have repressed a lot of the memories from that trip, since he was still basically dealing with a lot of trauma.
Yeah, but once he saw it, he
Right.
But it's still very awe-inspiring.
This brightness is suspicious.
No, this is normal. This is perfectly normal.
But you can see everything.
I know.
Why is it so sparkly? What? How?
This is the Imperial City. Oftentimes they get the best of everything.
Makes you sick, doesn't it?
Ari's going to kind of look down at her. Ari's going to kind of look down at her like, corsety, lingerie-y, everyday wear, and kind of feel like it's the first time I felt underdressed.
And I would imagine that with all this brightness, you would realize how dingy Duskvolian clothes look. Because normally you can't tell because it's dark all the time.
Exactly. Like, oh God, I need to do laundry.
More than
It's been a while. You normally wear the dirt with pride. It normally means that you've actually been putting your hands into something. But now everything... Yeah.
Several things would be very different here. Fortunately, we will not be here very long, but get used to. And he hesitates for a moment to say the word daylight, but he does say, ultimately, daylight, such as it is. And he kind of glances over at Sky with a knowing look of, you know what daylight looks like, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody's treating Ari like, oh, you sweet summer child. This is daylight.
Well, and so for Sky, it would be kind of a shock in that respect because it would be like that memory that Hocus was able to share with you, and so that brilliance, it strikes you. And so as the car begins to pull into the station slowly, you realize that almost every building is wired up for these electroplasmic lights that you see, and all of the buildings around the rail station. Are warehouses or other, types of industrial facilities, and there's active work going on. But beyond that, farther into the city, towards the center of the city proper, there's things that surprise even Hocus. Buildings that are 10 and 12 stories tall, of this unusually strange architecture that utilizes stone and other material, and you can see this one building that's going up, and it has this strange frame, and it has these weird jagged edges coming out of the top, and it's towering above all the other ones, and it's at least 12 stories tall now. And so you're finding yourself in essentially a very alien territory, and off towards the distance, towards the far side of the city near the coast, there's a sort of a mountain peak, and Hocus recognizes this as where the Imperial Palace is, where the immortal Emperor lives behind closed doors, having not been seen since the time of the Cataclysm.
Wait a minute. Mountains exist? I thought they were just something that we put in kids' books. Fantasy stories.
If we had taken the route on the eastern side, we would have had to pass through mountains, but it's a much slower trip. The train does not move as quickly over the mountains. It slows down. It's much more dangerous that way. But yes, there are definitely mountains.
Huh. Well.
Strange world we live in.
I will say, this is an adventure. Ari's starting to kind of warm up a little bit more to the idea that if she treats it like it's an adventure, it might become more fun.
I did not spend a great deal of time here when I was here the last time on my way up to Duskvol, so I can't be any kind of tour guide, but I don't really want to. Much anyway.
Oh, you don't have any pamphlets to hand out to me?
No.
Not going to be able to tell me where that lamb came from? Fine. Then we'll have to find a different tour guide, won't we?
And with that, the train begins to slowly come to a stop, and you hear the squealing of the wheels as they stop turning against the rail, and the metal grinds against metal as you come to a slow, gradual stop with one final just jolt as the brakes catch. I'm sorry, what?
I said, "Oh, how I love that sound."
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable too. I agree. And you begin to hear calls from the rail jacks as they disembark, and the power coupling that lines the entire train, that helps generate some of the protection for the entire, begins to shut down, and there is a subtle hum and like a buzzing sort of hum that happens from the sides of the car, where the energy is passing through on the exterior, and that sudden hum, just buzzing, just kind of slowly dissipates and goes away. And you know that from that sound, you're able to open the side door of the car rather than go through the head or the essentially the back of the car. You can open your side door and make an exit out that direction.
Ari's gonna probably rush out of the cart as soon as it stops. She doesn't like being cooped up for too long.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll step out and just have that moment of like, wait, where's the smell of trash?
Get into the last car if you want.
It smells so pure. Well, let's see. What's the plan?
Sky kind of quickly goes to his sister and just says, "Back in just a few hours, don't you worry. I'll see you soon." And I'll follow Ari out and say, "Well, oh, God, it is clean here. We're looking
Too
for
clean.
someone."
It's almost suspicious.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. But yeah, we're looking for someone. Looking for someone from the ministry, most likely, or someone who works for him, customs agent, something like that. We got some connections I'd like to leverage while we're in town.
So there's a railjack that's coming along and checking each of the cars, one on each side, and he approaches you as he gets closer, and he says something to the effect of, "You've got 24 hours. We've got to swap out the engine. We've got to do some repairs, and then we'll be moving on." So, and he rattles off, "We'll be leaving at the hour of 4 tomorrow promptly. Make sure to be back here."
Will do.
Should still be awake by 4 a.m. It's an average night, right?
Will any of you or your associates be going into the cars?
Unless we're required to, unless we need to make repairs in there. I've not gotten into reports, and he pulls out essentially a sheet of paper with some scribbles on it. Not according to this, except for maybe passenger car 4, which is, and he points behind you guys, which is one of those cars that you talked about that has one of the less protections. It looks like we had some damage back there, and I just need to double check it.
All right. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated.
And he moves on.
So, where are we going first? I say the nearest tavern or the nearest brothel, which, if my senses are going right. Is this way?
I don't know
And she's
if we
just going to
have-
start strolling.
I don't know if we have time for that right now, Ari.
Well, what else are we doing? Where are your ministry people going to be?
Well, I mean, they tend to have agents at every station. So check by the loading docks for people checking inventory. We can get drinks later if we have time.
So if you ask the railjack, he'll let you know that there's a rail yard coordination office where you might be able to find some information about coordinating with somebody from the Ministry of Preservation. Giving you a writ, that's going to give you pretty much any clearance through the red tape, right? But remember, that writ only works for this trip.
Mm-hmm.
Once you disembark, it's a one pass kind of a thing. So just to be aware.
All right. So we'll take that Railjack's advice and head towards that office.
Okay, inside you find the hustle and bustle, and there appears to be a fair bit of conversation going on about the trains that are scheduled to come in from Dosqual. Given the news, you are the second train to have arrived from Dosqual based on the evacuation that was being coordinated. So there's a fair bit of expectation. There's concern that they're not going to be able to get your train repaired and with a new engine in time to be able to take off before the third train is scheduled to arrive. So they may be moving and delaying your train car, your train for its leave. Moving on to God, what is the next town? It is South Point. So. There's pretty much a lot of chaos, but there's a woman who clearly is working, coordinating supplies and doing other types of trade negotiation type of things, and it's obvious that she's from the Ministry of Preservation.
I'm going to tap on her shoulder. Just, have you met Sky?
No, shouldn't I have?
I apologize for my friend's introduction. Name's Sky. You are probably familiar with my friend Lady Sling.
Yes, I technically work with her division. What does that have to do with me right now? Can't you see that we're really busy? And she points to the paperwork. Trains coordinating supplies back to Dosqual.
I understand. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're just passing through right now. I wouldn't bother you in this time unless I didn't have much time myself. You see, we're heading on a train out of here in just a day.
So you're on the Eruvian Express then?
That's the one.
Oh, please excuse my rudeness by being very blunt, but what can I do for you, Sky?
Well, you see, Lady Slane and I have a bit of an arrangement in our city where, she helps us by, or we help her out. We let her. We bring in some more spices and rare goods into the city of Duskfall.
Oh, you're one of those special cases. Yes, I'm aware of what that means.
Understood. We'd like to see if we could go about establishing a similar relationship here.
Well, how much time do you have, Sky? I don't think you're going to be able to do it in the time frame that you need to do it. There's definitely a need, and it's going to cost you a little bit. But there's opportunities. It's just we're kind of busy right now coordinating with all the craziness that's going on, both in here, both here in the city as we try to coordinate, and then in Doskval. Udwasha has its own set of just weird circumstances. I mean, I don't know if you know, but there's some real craziness going on there. But then I also feel it's important that I explain that Lockport is also experiencing issues as well. And we're incredibly busy right now. So we'd love to make something happen. But I'm not sure that I can help you in the time frame that you're going to be dealing with here.
Understood, we're on short time, but it is exactly this kind of time when it is easiest and most expedient to work together. I'm sure you understand when more paperwork is flying, it's easier for some of it to get lost at times.
As I said, it's not possible right now. There's a real crisis going on.
Is there anything that we can do to help with that?
Unless you can offer us an opportunity to import some medical supplies and send them to Lockport, I don't know what else to tell you.
Can do that.
There's a fair bit of unrest going on right now.
I can certainly do that.
Is Jinx with us? Did he hear that?
Yeah, that's a...
Oh yeah, that's the kind of situation where Jinx would have probably started panicking and reacted.
Honk.
What exactly is going down in Lockport, if I may ask?
The lightning barrier has failed there. They have been able to set up temporary lightning barriers in certain sections of the city, but it has shut down all industrial activity there, and it's a big crisis. It's overrun by whatever the Deathlands has to offer in that area of our little world. But yeah, it was the lightning barriers just failed all of a sudden, all in unison. They're not designed to do that, so something's off. So if you can, we're sending a train that direction. In 2 days, if you want to coordinate to help with medical supplies, we would absolutely love your help, and that would go a long way in us establishing business. If not now in your time frame, but maybe when you're coming back through.
Absolutely. I believe we have some contacts over there who may be able to provide something as well. Perhaps, I don't know if your train may be coming through Duskwall again, but I'm sure we have some generous suppliers over there as well.
All right, well, whatever you can do to help, just let us know how we're going to do this. But if I can't answer an immediate question or solve an immediate problem for you, Sky, I mean, don't get me wrong. Lady Slane, a great help to us, but we're here and she's there, so.
Absolutely. What I have to ask of you is two main things. One, safe passage when we come through here again, because at that point it may be too late. And have that ensured now. Two, there's a chance that within the coming weeks there may be a strange cart coming through this way, and we'll make sure that you know that it's ours before it comes through. All that we ask is that you let it pass without more than a glance.
Strange cart? Do you want to explain yourself? There's
I
a
think
number
it's safer
of
for both of us if you don't.
The less you know, the safer you are, really. We're just doing it to protect you.
Well, let me do this and say that's going to cost you a lot.
Medical supplies to Lockport not enough for you?
That's a humanitarian issue.
I'd like to try and convince them otherwise, using
Okay.
sway.
Okay. So, this is going to be a risky situation because she is already suspect and she's a little suspicious and she's expecting coin. Mm-hmm. So that should be obvious. What about the effect, though? Actually, I'll tell you what. Rather than immediately start the roll, why don't you role play it and try to sway her, and then let's see if it makes sense that you're going to do it without even a roll, depending upon what you say.
Well, I guess in a way the sway would have been about trying to convince her that we're doing this to protect you. We're happy to help out in your precarious situation, but the less you know about us, the safer that you and all of the people that you need your medical supplies for will be. And at the end of the day, if this is a humanitarian issue, isn't it best that we leave this to be for the safety of the people? I'm thinking about those poor people.
Okay, at that, though, you raise her suspicions. The way that you phrase that definitely raises her suspicions. So please.
Bugger.
It's a risky, and I think the effect is going to be standard, unless anybody else has any disagreement. And the reason I think it's going to be standard is because, one, you're trying to convince her of something without telling her what it is that's going on or why it's going to be.
I'm just Mother Teresa. It's fine. I am here to protect the people.
Right. So call it standard. So risky and standard. Do you want to push yourself to take a devil's bargain?
Yes.
What's the devil?
No. What's the devil's bargain?
An old friend from your past will visit you while you're in the Imperial City and will make you think twice about continuing on with the crew.
Oh, God. Tips is going to come.
No.
I'm really glad you said something there, Johnny, because I almost belted out that laugh again. I was getting ready to draw breath.
Actually, you know what? I think that's actually a really great idea because I'd love to see Tips again. And I'd love to see Tips convince her, give her a reason to stay. Because I'm sure that Tips was on probably the first train and got his butt out of there as soon as he knew something was coming. Because he plays all the angles, at least if I remember, the character correctly. So, yes, Tips will be there to offer you a situation that might be more lucrative or fun than going on to Aruvia.
Okay, metagame. What do you guys think?
I think it'd be fun to do it. So I mean,
do too.
All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Coming up with ideas of what he could tell her to say, "Oh, you need to stay with me."
Oh lordy, let's do this. She'll take the devil's bargain.
Fantastic! I can't wait for that. Okay.
I'll throw her an assist as well.
How are you going to throw her the assist? Is it just reinforcing, basically the what she's been saying with what you've been talking about as well?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and take one.
My assist was actually going to be countering what she said, sort of. So I'm glad you went.
Okay. So go ahead and make that assist as well. I'll take one stress, Speedy.
Yep.
All right. And to make the roll,
2 bonus dice.
2 bonus dice.
All right, so I get 2
bonus
then.
die for leveraging our crew connection of Lady Sling.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So 3.
3. Cool. All right. Come on, Ari. First roll of the season.
Do it. Do it.
Oh.
Wow. Oh my god.
Wait,
You do it, but I'm sorry. Last night they were just getting crits left and right, and tonight it's like, please let this not be the precedent for tonight.
Yeah,
my
on
screen, one of
screen,
those is
I have a
5.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
On mine as well. I have 1, 1, 4, 2, 5, and 2.
Yeah.
It's made one of them a 3 when it should be a 5.
There's a 5 right there.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have those dice on?
I have those dice on as well, and that's what I have. Is a 5.
Really what?
What?
That's why I'm like, wait.
Okay, do me a favor, re-roll.
Okay.
Just because, and I want to see if the roll is consistent. I'm going to give you the better of the 2 rolls, whatever that is. But I just want the roll is consistent based on the dice, because I know that there are problems with the 3D dice in roll 20.
It's the first time I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same here.
Yeah, it's the first time that it's ever not matched.
Yeah, exactly.
Effect standard, bonus dice 3. Loop. I'm gonna try again. See, that time I have a 6 and a 5, 2 1s and 2 2s.
Yep, that's the roll that you wanted. Okay, all right, great. Now, she looks at you really just sort of shrewdly for a second, and she can't tell if you're being serious or if you're playing her. But after a moment, she, somebody walks up and distracts her, and she's like, "All right, fine. Here," and she hands Sky a form. Fill this form out. This will be so that any correspondence, from you gets, coordinated to me. I just need to know at least a week in advance before the shipment comes through, so that I can pass it through. And otherwise, you can give my regards to Lady Slane and tell her that you owe her a favor.
Sister Sling will greatly appreciate this. And she shakes the woman's hand profusely with both hands. It's that double thank you.
She looks at you like, I don't trust you. And okay. Now, if there's nothing else, I really need to get back to work. I
want to take a minute to actually carefully read the contract that she gave me to make sure
it's not a contract. All it is basically a piece of contact information.
Okay.
So that when any correspondence comes, it gives you essentially a series of names or slots for names or reference numbers that any correspondence that you would send. And this is the kind of thing where intercity correspondence right now would be, you go to the rail station, you tell them which port that you want this to be delivered to, and then it'll be delivered to that port. And then from there, the couriers for that local city would then bring it into, whoever it is. And for most of them, there would be an almost immediate response, or immediate delivery for anything that's government related. Being the Ministry of Preservation, this being the Imperial City, they're going to get this kind of thing once it comes right in. So,
as Sky's looking over that, Ari's just going to have a moment. It's like, still got it. Still got it.
Okay. And so basically that's all it is, the contact information. Go.
As you have already made clear how busy you are, may I ask, can you point me to someone to whom I may speak about what is going on in Eruvia, so as not to take up any more of your time?
That situation is precarious. And she starts to here, and she digs through her desk and she pulls out a calling card, eggshell white, beautiful font. Sorry, I had to do it. Hands you a calling card, and it is from the Eruvian consulate here in the Imperial City. And she's like, this is the situation officer for the emergency that is going on. We've been funneling people through, from Eruvia to Dosval and other points. This is the person that you want to talk to. And now, if there's nothing else,
Thank you, ma'am.
She kind of looks at you and she just turns and goes back to her work. The hustle and bustle.
Ari's gonna do a little
The hustle and bustle of the office hasn't changed in the time that you're corresponding with her, although there is another train arriving from the south, coming from Aruvi at this point. So there's a bit of hustle and bustle about that arrival as well. What are you guys doing?
All right, what else do we need to accomplish while we're here?
I don't know if Johnny, do we technically have downtime actions? I don't
want. You do have downtime actions after everything that you guys did.
Right. I don't want to go through like the technical things of like going through all of them. I just wanted to try and acquire an asset.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't all of you think about your downtime actions, and then we'll cut immediately. I mean, is it something that you want to do right this second, or is it something that's prepping before going to wherever your next destination is?
Prepping for later.
Okay, so why don't you guys think about it real quick, and let's follow the narrative along so that we can try to get Kitty into this.
Yes.
I'm just enjoying the show.
I mean, I feel like while everybody's organizing things, Ari isn't into this stuff. She's going to get really, really, really bored really fast. She doesn't know how to organize shipments and things like that. She's probably going to wander off and do her own thing.
Right.
I was actually going to say she could while Hocus is going where he's going, she could follow along and he'd say, "That's a brothel," and
and she's just gone.
Yeah.
And I'm gone. I'll be back.
Okay, so we'll catch up with Ari in just a few minutes. So Water Sky and Jinx, having heard the information, gets incredibly uncomfortable and immediately asks for the local Scoveland refugee bar pub establishment and makes his way off towards that. And he mumbles something about being back in time for the train to leave. What are Hocus and Sky doing?
God. I just came up with the name for the pub.
What is it?
Jinx's Gambit.
That would be a hell of a fuck you to the Imperial City and the Emperor himself for that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would be also benevolent of the Emperor to allow that to happen in his city.
Mm-hmm.
So he runs off to the Jinx's Gambit.
Yeah. And Hocus is basically to Sky, unless you need me, I really need to look into what's going on in our destination.
I mean, I could go with you if you are comfortable with it.
We're both Eruvian. It's not that I wouldn't be comfortable. It's that we have 24 hours to accomplish everything we need to do, presuming we don't get delayed in our departure.
There. Split up.
So you're welcome to come with me if you wish.
No, I trust you to handle yourself. Work back whatever you find.
Until later then. And Hocus is off.
So describe to me quickly the wonders of the city as you're walking through, Hocus, because the consulate is going to be very close to the seat of government.
I was going to say very close to the city center.
Right, but not so close that it's essentially in the seat of government. It's among all of the consulates, all of the essentially the buildings that would be representing foreign, or not foreign necessarily, because they're all a part of the Imperium now. Different cultural centers would be outside of the city or outside of the government proper. So, right. Describe to us what that experience is like walking down through the city.
Well, as you move from either the docks or the train station, which are not too terribly far apart, as opposed to like Duskfall, where they're on opposite sides of the city. As you move further from the train station and the docks, things get better and better and nicer and nicer and nicer as you move towards the city center. The restaurants become nicer. The radiant plants that they have actually have some semblance of actual green to them because of all the brightness, which is a little bit uncomfortable because the closer you get towards where he's going, the more it starts to look more and more like everywhere he remembers, or tries not to, but kind of does, until you get like right up to the city center, and the consulate's right before that. I believe he probably would stop at one point to buy a piece of fruit or something, and to check for directions again to make sure he's going to the right place. And of course, even the fruit is sweeter, more succulent, juicier. It's not that it's bad in Duskfall, but it's better here. I mean, everything is. And the smells of things like bread, as opposed to the kind of wheat they are capable of growing in Duskfall, the wheat here is really good. So the flour is great, and the bread bakes the way it should. And it's anyway. And as you get closer and closer to the city center, more of this becomes evident. By the time he gets to the gates of the consulate, there are more and more Eruvians. There are 2 Eruvians standing outside, while he has his mask on his hip instead of on his face. He comes in and holds up his card and says that he wishes to speak with anyone, not specifically the consul, but anyone within the consulate who can inform him of what's going on in Uduasha, because that's where he's bound, and he would like to be prepared.
So the person at the front desk looks at your card, kind of flips it over, and says, "Who gave you this?"
This was from the lady from the Ministry of Preservation at the rail station.
You have some friends, and pockets it. He says, "Give me just a moment." And he steps up and walks off to the side, in through a closed door, and is gone for a second. The feeling, the tone, the energy of the consulate building, it's vibrant, it's nervous, there's not a great deal of chaos, but there's an underlying tension that you can feel as you see people walk back and forth, doing various tasks, young or old. They are all uncomfortable. Occasionally you see Eruvian military soldiers walking by, some of them with indicators that they have an affiliation to the Red Sashes, indicating that they had been in Duskfall at one point or another and had studied either at the Eruvian school or were a part of the extracurricular activities that the Eruvian government was not sanctioning but allowing going on in Duskfall. And out of the door off to the side walks the greeter / attendant, and behind him walks a woman dressed very much in traditional Eruvian garb, either for business or trade. And she walks up to you and says, "Who are you to inquire about the state of Eruvia? I mean, aren't you a refugee? I mean, you wear the robes that place you as from Uduasha."
When she steps out, Hocus while he's waiting, becomes slightly distracted by a slightly more exotic radiant energy plant that the greeter has on their desk, but more importantly, that it is planted in the black sand that is very common around Uduasha, and he's sort of very lightly running his fingers across the sand that he has not felt in 20 years. And so he kind of I apologize. I am while I am from Udwash, originally I've lived this 20 years in Duskfall. I am Ulset Hakan of the House of Ensarech, but I am returning to my homeland. And I do not wish to... I have heard that the well is becoming more still, and that many spirit wardens have been dispatched. Myself and my family are whispers, and I do not like to go into a situation unprepared.
She looks at you a little bit of concern. Your arrival is timely. Why are you going back now? I mean, it's clear if you're just arriving here. Were you on one of the trains evacuating Duskfall?
Yes, we were on one of the last trains out. We saw what happened.
Come this way. And she motions for you to follow her into an office, the office that she came out from.
And I will nod a thank you to the greeter as I follow her.
And she escorts you in, allows you to enter the room. She gives a nod and a hand gesture to the attendant and then closes the door. She offers you a seat on a beautifully decorated couch that resembles the style of Aruvia, the way that furnishings are made and designed and put together. And she sits in a chair just sort of off to the side next to you. She said, "Please, we don't know much. The government isn't telling us much. What's happened?"
There was... You remember the tales of the Leviathan that attacked Duskfall long, long ago?
Mm-hmm. I do.
That happened again. It was...
That was real?
Yes, it was attacking from the sea, flinging itself against the lightning barrier, trying desperately to get inside. Eventually, it was capable of penetrating the shield, but it was felled by inches. A group that was gathered in the park. And for my understanding, it probably lies there still. It was peppered with pieces of wood and iron ships that apparently had sailed long before that to try to combat it while it was still in the water, but apparently not all of them made it. So, during the last moments of that fight, we were told in no uncertain terms to flee with great speed. And there were a great many people in the train station waiting to head out at any point. We fortunately had already been making plans to start making a shipment from Duskfall back to Aruvia by way of the Imperial City. So as we are, I can't think of the word all of a sudden. I don't want to say smugglers.
Traders.
Yeah, kind of.
Philanthropers.
Not a word, but okay. Makes it sound like an insect. Oh, it's philanthropers are sticking out. Yeah. What?
Transporters?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Exporters of goods.
Exporters of goods.
Yes. Yes. Well, import and export.
Well, ghostly goods, you know.
Yes.
That's right. I forgot about that.
We're a legitimate business. The LLC is in.
So we already had our car hooked up and ready to go. It was just a question of getting to the train station in time, which we were quite fortunate to make it before the train left.
This happened 3 days ago?
Has it only been 3 days? It's been a very long time since I was on a train, so I'd forgotten how tedious they can be. But yes.
And she looks perplexed at first and then flustered and a little uncomfortable. And she says, I have a question. I'm embarrassed to ask. But given the circumstances. Did you see the lightning in the sky 3 days ago?
All 3 times.
White, red,
Red.
and gold. And she turns completely white.
Gasp! No, not sorry.
Da, 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 da,
When did Louise give you her goddamn gun? Seriously?
I pickpocketed it.
She turns white, and there is a look of fright on her face. It's another week. To Uzwasha from here. We haven't received news yet from home. But the reports are not good. Bright Harbor and South Point both reported seeing the lightning as well. We're not sure what that means. But you ask of news from home. I don't have much good to report. And I'm, given the strange circumstances, you are aware of the chaos that's going on in Lockport right now, are you not?
We've only just heard of that before I came over here. News of that
We-
did not reach us.
We were very lucky. There was a group of railjacks who were preparing an express back to the Imperial City who escaped. And they were given passage when they flagged that they were an emergency. They brought news to the city. The troubling thing is, and she pauses for a second and she's struggling with the information, and she says, that also happened 3 days ago. The Lightning Bearer's fall was 3 days ago. And she's wringing her hands, and she's incredibly uncomfortable with what she's telling you. But home, the well has stopped consuming completely. The last report was that anybody with skills were being conscripted and they were joining willingly to prevent outright chaos in the city, but that doesn't protect them from what's beyond the city walls. And now I don't have much news beyond that, because that was the last report a week ago.
As I was leaving the rail station to come over here, there was a new train that had just arrived from the south. Perhaps there are people there be able to bring you some new reports.
Yes, but that news will still be a week old. Given the events of the past 3 days, I don't know what you're going home to.
If people with skill are being conscripted, I can virtually guarantee that my entire family will be very busy when I get there.
So I can't offer you any more solace. And at that point, the attendant comes in from outside, bringing in a very traditional Peruvian tea ceremony setup, and places it on the table in front of both you and her. And she, of course, begins to offer you as she continues. It begins to make the tea for you as she continues with what she's about to say. She says, I can't offer you anything more than this tea, and my assurance that when you arrive, your help will be greatly appreciated. And after she offers you a cup, she gets up and moves over to her desk, and she pulls out a coin from her desk. Now, prior to the use of paper in Ruvia, coins were used. Printed pieces of metal with intricate designs on both sides were used as calling cards. And she hands this to you, and she says, present this anywhere you need to. It will get you whatever you need when you get back. Your family, and I know who you are, your family is desperately waiting to see you. Now, I must apologize. If that train is coming in, I will need to coordinate and make decisions based on the news that they bring. Can I offer you a place to sleep? A meal that might remind you of home?
It has been so long since any genuine Peruvian food has passed my lips, I doubt I would even remember it. That is not to say that it is not welcome. But
she rings a bell.
I also am not alone. I mean, I have friends waiting for me, so.
She rings a bell. The attendant comes back in and she whispers something to him. And he shakes his head and he wanders off for a second. Please, indulge me. And he comes back in and brings a calling card in. And he hands it to you directly. And she says, This is the home that some of us visit occasionally to enjoy a good little piece of home, a taste of home. This invitation on this card, if you choose to accept it, will give you and your friends a brief moment of peace, for I fear that there is much chaos coming.
humbled and grateful for your hospitality here and here. Thank you.
She gives you a traditional. Say what?
I said, and the tea is excellent.
She gives you a traditional bow as she's standing up, showing you great reverence. And she says, please enjoy your tea here and step out when you are ready to. I now must attend to other things. It has been a pleasure.
And an honor.
And she steps up and she walks out. And at that moment, you're given an opportunity to kind of take in her office more than just the intensity of the moment. And you see that there are very traditional Peruvian items all placed around the office, making your heart sort of hurt.
Wistful. Right. Here's the
right. Yep.
Steal it.
Oh, that's mean.
It takes some to stand, but there's plenty where we're going. So.
Oh yes. And so we're going to cut as we leave Hocus, just sort of pondering that moment, to Sky. What's Sky up to?
Sky is kind of wandering around the train station area, and he's looking for more opportunities for connections to make, because he's got someone who will, be willing to provide the paperwork to overlook stuff, but he wants a connection who will actually be willing to deliver things within the city.
So you're looking for somebody who's basically you, but in the city, who's
not necessarily like me, but like similar, I guess. Like someone who works for someone like me.
Okay.
Maybe someone who's less bitter and bitchy and wanting to destroy it.
Who could you be talking about there?
So it's while you're looking for this particular person that you hear a peculiar voice that catches your ear. And that is the voice of Tips.
Oh.
Tips doesn't sound like that.
And it is the voice of Tips doing business in a local establishment in essentially the taverns and pubs surrounding the rail station, which, based on your experience in the world of Doskva, at least, that would be the place where real business gets done, right? Trade coming in and out. If you wanted to get something extra special, you go to the places where the traders or the exporters are frequenting around the rail yard, right? So it is at that point that you hear that voice talking off in the distance.
All right, listen, love. Here's the thing. You see, it's very simple. You need what I have, and the only way I'm going to give it to you is if you give me something that's worth an equal amount. All right, so just either pay up or fuck off. As your choice.
Tips, you see Sky walk into the room and he's just kind of hovering a little bit. You see him kind of walk by, do like a couple pass-bys, trying to make himself notice, but not like super obvious.
Yeah, all right. So, look, either do business with me right now because I got some other little shit wants to talk to me. So, what's it going to be? Are we in? Yeah. Are we in or are you out? It's one of the two. So pick one right now. Fuck off. And whatever this person says or does is most likely fuck off. And so,
so what kind of business? So Tips is recently in the Imperial City, but he's already establishing himself as a mover and a player, given his reputation and his ability to make things happen very quickly. So what is it Tips is doing right now? I think that both you and Ari can kind of establish that because, I mean, her past with him was interesting and very much a almost like a familial kind of a thing. Like he was very much a father figure in some ways to you, right?
He was more of
I'm not saying a great father. I'm saying a father figure.
Like a daddy figure.
Ooh.
daddy. He was more. Yeah, he did the whole "I'm going to show you the ropes" thing, but it wasn't really without some sort of
Ropes.
rope. I'm just going to use vague hand expressions to just give
So
you
he
the
was-
idea.
What does this mean? Who knows?
He was sort of a weird sort of,
It's an
you know,
interpretive dance, you know.
right? Okay.
And yeah, basically there was like a relationship there. It was almost a little creepy, yes, but that is Duskfall to a T.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't ever going to come that he would teach her everything without something in return. And it didn't really feel that way, though. It felt more like a relationship. This was like a mutual thing, combining of each other's skills.
What was Tip's business though? Was it shipping? Was it export, import? Was it
He was
drugs?
he was a drug lord.
Okay, I just
He
wanted to make sure
provided
that
the drugs to all of Dogsfall. He knew how to find them, where to get them. He knew where to import them when supplies were low.
okay.
And he knew how to pay people enough to be willing to take the blame should they ever get caught. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you muted.
Sorry, with that's where you find what the type of business that Tips is doing, Sky, as you're loitering trying to get noticed. And that person fucks off because they can't afford Tips's deal.
Well, of course, because he's offering them parts from a giant rotting Leviathan.
Just kind of scooped up on the train ride over.
Yeah, kind of. Well, fuck me running. All right. By the way, that's not an offer. All right. If you were somebody more.
I don't know how to if I wanted. That's not an expression I'm familiar with.
Okay. Well, that's all right. Maybe someday Ari can teach you. By the way, where is the lovely lass?
She's around.
Fucking then. All right. So, what do you need from me? Because obviously you need something or you wouldn't be here.
That's quite the coincidence that you happen to be in town same time as me.
Oh, there's no coincidences where I'm involved.
How long are you in town for?
As long as I fucking want. What do you want from me?
Well, we're just passing through on
Thank God.
bit of a business trip, you see, trying to make some more work happen in different places. See, sure you understand that, don't you, Tips?
Yeah.
Doing
So
that squinting thing I really like.
yeah, I know you do, but that's okay. Look, I'm almost married. Don't even think about it. Now listen, the whole fuck me running thing was just it's a saying, like you said. Anyway, so I'm a little bit vague on a particular thing because the last time we talked, your entire fucking business burned to the ground. What the fuck are you going to be shipping anywhere?
We got a new business. We talked about this last time we talked.
Right, is this one flammable?
No, surprisingly.
Yeah, it is surprising. All right, so I'll repeat my original question. What do you need or want from me?
Distribution in Imperial City. Plain simple.
Oh.
Now, see, I can tell by that lot you're peddling right there, you don't have quite the same supply, the same connections that you had back in Duskfall. Where were you getting it before? Leviathan hunters, back from the North Hook shipping company, was it? See, they're not round here. You need Leviathan parts. You need lure. I have that. shipping in from out of town. It usually passes through here, but we don't let it distribute because we don't have the connections, you see. We just let it go all the way on to Duskfall.
I see. So yeah, you can bring in a few drugs. Then is what you're saying. Legal
Maybe.
and illegal. Some illicit ones and some that are actually genuinely needed around here. Eh?
I'd say all of them are genuinely needed.
Wow, that's a very excellent point. Yeah. If you were half this fucking convincing last time we met, we might have done business back then, but no. Okay, well, let's see. Medical and recreational. And what is in it for me?
What kind of question is that?
Oh, let's see. A fairly short one, really, and one of the most important ones I will ever ask you.
Well, you had your little business over in Duskfall.
So did you.
Exactly. See, the thing is, my business is still around in Duskfall.
Mm-hmm.
Even after the one burned to the ground. And while your business may still be going on over there, you're not there anymore. So, if you want a supply, I can give it to you. We take a bit off the top, and you push whatever I give you.
Wow, you know, as somebody who comes calling hand in hand, you are very pushy.
That's what I do.
If
We're
I
pushers,
say
you see.
yeah. If I say no, who the fuck else are you going to go to?
Plenty of people around. I mean, I got the supply. It's easy enough to pick someone off the street and just start, selling.
Right.
It doesn't take too much to just have some muscle. Someone with a goat to spread some drugs around town. It does take someone with a little bit more skill to make it done well. Now, I could just find someone with a cart, maybe a cabbie, someone with a little hole in their pocket. And if you don't want to work with me, I'm perfectly fine doing that. And sure, he'll work for cheaper, undercut your supply. If you do want to work with me, though, you'll have one of the only supplies of lure in the city.
How long have you been in town so far?
A couple hours.
Enough to know that the brothel here is terrible. Far too prudish. Oh, Tips.
Hello, love.
Besides, I already stole half of their gold. They're really bad at cards, too.
You're still hiding your, maybe I shouldn't discuss that in front of a lady. Well, fortunately, there's not one around. So, whenever you're palming cards, you're still hiding them in the same place.
Where else is there?
No, I still haven't washed those cards since that day. Oh, so lovely. Right.
It's probably because you haven't had a new pair since anyway.
That you know of, my dear. So let's see. So you, Mr. Sky, if I remember rightly, was it? Yeah.
Same name.
Yeah, oh, that's good. So you show up, and within a few hours, you start wandering in, proclaiming to know more and have more contacts than somebody who's already been here more than a week and has done business in this city prior, more than just passing things in and out. And you think, not done talking, love, hang on. And you think that you're going to undercut me. Oh, you're used to the way things work in Dustfall. This is the imperial fucking city. Things work a little bit different around here than they do in Dustfall. We don't quite play by the same rules. And if you're going to play a different game, you better learn the fucking rules before you get on the field. All right?
We may not know the rules, but we do seem to be playing the game better. You've been here a week and this is all you've done? I expected more from you, Tips.
Love, you're getting nothing from me. Well,
Who said I wanted anything from you?
well, you are here again in my presence, much like him, hat in hand, but, you know.
Well, actually, this is where I have to have the same question that you do. Sky, why are you talking to this man?
You knew we needed distribution here. Tips has got some sort of operation set up. Doesn't seem like a great one based on the conversation I walked in on. But that's just a lack of supply. Sorry, Ari. I know you asked and all that. Maybe you walked in on this.
You two want to finish a little lover's tiff while I finish doing some business back here.
You have no idea what you're fucking talking about, sir.
I don't. Okay, listen, Sky. Does she done that little trick she does with a peach pit and her tongue?
Ari's going to, at this point, like slap him across the face before he can continue on with any more words.
And it connects. Oh man, does it connect? Little bit of blood right in the corner of the thing, and he's like,
yeah. This guy's completely stone-faced through that.
That's the Ari I remember. All right. Now we talk business. But this question is the same. What do you want from me?
You heard my request.
I had vague requests. I want specifics.
So, we'll be getting shipments in from Eruvia. Lure. Stuff you dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
What I want from you, some of that shipment's going on back to Duskwall, but I'd like some of it take hold here. From what I know, it doesn't have a huge presence in the city, other than heard something about Eruvians spreading it from the consulate, but there's a bigger opportunity here. Now, chance emphasizes only a chance. I might be sending back something a little different from Lure as well. Can't give you too much details there, but I assure you it will be worth your time.
Well, I do deal in a fair bit more than lure. So, we also move a couple of other things. We deal in shadow and passion. Wake, that one's especially popular around here. Wake.
None of those.
None of that. Oh, that's a shame. Remember, you're dealing with a slightly higher class of.
Oh, I'm aware. And what we're planning on dealing is nothing like lure or shadow, passion, any of those street drugs. What we're dealing in.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's not something you work with. And, well, it's not something many people like to work with. I'm not talking about something sweet to soothe the masses. Talking about a way to change the city. Not just this one, but Duskfall. Empire as a whole. Something could be very profitable for people like us. I know I speak in vague terms. And that's no accident. Because what I'm talking about isn't something that I would trust with you or even my crew till the day comes. When you get it, you'll understand.
Okay, I got another question then.
Sure.
So you say it's going to change the whole of the empire.
Right.
Into what? Is the destination, the result, is that going to be equally profitable for men like us? Or more so, or less so? What will the result be?
Let's just say that we'll need a lot fewer, or we'll need a lot fewer loopholes. Do what we need to do.
Huh. Oh, it's a mighty big purse you're offering.
You know it's the best deal you're going to get around here.
What I know is that it's a mighty big purse. I don't know what's in it. Sorry, love, you were saying.
I don't have any more words to say other than you know it's a better deal. You've worked with us before. You know that we'll pull through.
Listen, worst case scenario, you're getting a deal on lure.
Better the devil you know, right?
Not exactly funny words round about now with the way things are going, love. Not choose your jokes a little better next time, perhaps. What guarantees do I have, if any? It's an awful lot of risk. An awful lot of infrastructure I've got to set up to move something. I don't know what it is. If it's something intangible, which it sounds like it is, how am I going to know what I got to set up and what I don't? Is all that instruction going to come from you?
It will. I can guarantee you that you'll be getting shipments of lure to help you set things up, give yourself a good establishment and reputation in the city. And I can guarantee you that people over at the ministry won't come knocking on your door.
Lure, you say?
Lure.
All right.
Mainly.
Maybe a couple of other things here to spice it up now and then. Maybe some spices. Now, when it comes to lure, I want the best of the batch. You're scraping the sludge off the bottom of the barrel when you're done. I mean, the highest quality.
I think I can make that happen.
You think you can make it happen? If you can upgrade that to a guarantee you can make it happen, we can talk.
I guarantee it.
All right. Fine. Johnny, go.
So, how is that deal sealed?
That's what I'm waiting for.
That's that. So you guys are doing a hell of a great, establishing this relationship. But how is that deal sealed? Previously, Sky has tried to offer a contract,
2 tips.
and Tips basically told him to fuck off. So how does Sky and Tips seal the deal?
Oh God, is this where Ari ends up having to do a handshake instead?
It won't be her hands. It's all right.
Now,
wait, what will be she shaking? What? Sorry, I had to ask.
Yeah, you had to.
No, it was important. Now, Tips, I've offered you a great deal of guarantees. This is the part where you offer me some in return.
I believe I just did. I mean, how much can I actually promise you if I don't know what I've got to work with? I can't promise that I will set up any explicit sorts of back channels to move product that doesn't actually exist. I mean, without knowing what I'm going to have to move, you say I'm going to know when it shows up what it's going to be. I can't make any promises. I can't make any plans until such time as I know what I've got to work with.
All you're going to have to do when this shipment comes in is distribute.
Just distribute lore and whatever else you send me.
Exactly.
All right, it's in my best interest to do that. Why would you need any sort of guarantee from me?
Well, for one thing, when it comes to the lure, taking money off the top. When it comes to the other things, want to make sure it gets put into the right hands.
All right, I'll tell you what. Here's my side of the equation. You get me everything you've promised me. And with regards to everything you and I are dealing with, my books are open to you and you can review them at your leisure. You will know everywhere it's going, all of the coin which changes hands and in what amounts, and to whom I am distributing. But you will not ever undercut me. And the rest of my books are off limits.
I think it's the best we're going to get, Sky.
It's the best he's going to get.
I want access to all your books. All of them.
Business you and I do? Fine. I'll share that information with you openly, freely, every single blot of ink. Anything beyond that is none of your business because we aren't doing business on that level. Unless he kind of glances over at Ari and very slowly looks her up and down. Unless, of course, you, love, happen to accidentally let slip what you and I are up to on those occasions where you and he cross paths again. Because that little love tap you gave me, that brings back some very fond memories, that does. This town ain't nothing like that shithole we came from. You have no idea the kind of shit you could get up to around here. You, especially with your talents. You thought there was there was a few coin you stole playing cards. You thought that was that. Ain't nothing. Nothing. The places I can get you into. By all the gods and stars, you could almost rule this town. But you got to come with me.
No.
I swear.
Oh, I don't think I was talking to you.
You would make a drum out of the skin of your own mother just to sound your own praises, I swear.
She was a bitch. Sarah, it is, love. The only person who's going to change the deal that I put forward is you. Otherwise, Sky, my answer to you is as it stands. That's all the negotiation I'm willing to do with you. Anything else comes from her. And I just told you what it's going to be. Take me or leave it.
Ari's going to definitely kind of glance at Sky at this point, just like this. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh fuck.
Where did you go? which brothel were you at?
The hanging man.
Oh, well. Yeah, if you're hunting for railjack, yeah, that's a good place to go. But if you want sweeter meats than that, oh no. There is a place about maybe 7-8 blocks further in towards the city centre.
Are you trying to tell me that there's something more like a bratwurst compared to a Frankfurt?
Similar, yeah. But if that Frankfurt was served you on a golden plate, and all the napkins were made of fine Eruvian silk, and where the proprietors actually give you, the customer, a knife to eat with. Can you imagine? They provide weapons for their customers. I mean, it's absolute, but it is so sweet.
I mean, everything's a weapon if you try hard enough.
Really? Let me ask you this then. When's the last time you took a bath? Like an actual, proper bath? Anyway, you don't have to answer. I can tell. So here's the thing. Imagine a source of clean, hot, perfumed water for you to bathe in every day. Soap so creamy and smooth it leaves your skin like just lamb. It is unbelievable. The kind of
It's enough tips.
Cosmopolitan life you can live here. What's the matter there, Sky? You're starting to think that your side of the offering is not quite up to snuff compared to what I can give to her.
Quite the contrary.
Oh, I'd love to hear this. Please, go ahead.
You're offering her a life of luxury and decadence. Now, Duskfall may be a dingy place, but she had that, the brothels. There's a reason she quit that life. Ain't that right, Ari? You're not.
Sorry, please, go ahead.
It's been a long time since I perused the streets begging for scraps, begging for anything. I found something where I actually finally feel a bit of a sense of security, and maybe call me boring, but there's an appeal to that. And it still has that bit of adventure that I could never get from you.
Couldn't. Can now.
I'm going to go to my bunk. And she just storms off. Not saying yes, not saying no, just storming off.
Sounds like a no from her.
Doesn't sound like much of anything from her, really. But, so, what else can you really offer her? But, I mean, given the kind of shit you guys have been up to, your entire business burns to the ground. You blow up a lightning barrier. God knows what the fuck else you got up to after you and I had our last little encounter. So, I mean, are you leading her on a fast track, literally on the trains, heading for death? Is that what we? I mean, that is no kind of an adventure that woman deserves. But God, that sounded smitten.
You're too sure of yourself, Tips.
Well, I've got reason to be, but I'm more certain of what's waiting for you if you're going where I think you're going. You're going to get that woman and everybody else and yourself killed.
It's not the plan. While, things may not always go according to plan, I'm rather sure she'd like the mess that we make. Part of the charm of it. And as much as you may be able to offer a different life here, I haven't quite said anything like that that makes her slap me in the face quite a while.
Should really try it. It's nice when she gets riled.
I can see why she doesn't like you that much.
Oh, she likes me, just not in the way you think. Remember that whole bratwurst line? Yeah. All right. So if she's out, then you've got my offer.
You want to make that deal?
My books for my business with you are open. The rest are off limits. And I will help you move whatever you send me.
Shake on that?
Yeah.
For reference, Sky sees Tip's mark on his arm as well.
I don't want to know what that is.
Well, I will let Ari and I will let Venom Gandalf and Trendane figure out what that is, and you'll be informed later. So as that deal is sealed, there is a bit of commotion at the front of the tavern that you're currently in, and there's a bit of yelling. And then when the commotion kind of stops, one person kind of booms, "All right, Railjacks, if you're scheduled to go to Aruvia on the Express, turns out there's a schedule change. They need the supplies now. It's time to move. You've got..." And the guy looks down, and there is this weird, ornate timepiece that's gigantic on his arm. "You've got 30 minutes. It's time to go."
Well,
And then he runs out.
That's my
And
train.
Madam Gandalf, check chat in Zoom.
I'm down for dice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone?
I mean, that being the mark.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yes, that would be the mark that Sky sees appear on him, is a pair of dice, snake eyes.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Cool. Right. Sky quickly heads out and back to the train.
So as Hocus is picking himself up and figuring out what happens next, next, he also hears this news beginning to spread inside of the consulate that the Arubian Express is going to be leaving in a much quicker fashion, given the news that's coming. Apparently, the supplies of food and other things that the train was scheduled to take has the time frame has been upped. There is a desperate need, and so it's probably in his interest to head back.
You gonna beat feet back to the thing. We're talking like arms backward, anime runs. Wait, yeah.
So who arrives back at the cart first?
Probably not Hocus. He was much closer to the city center.
Ari, she was the one who left first.
Yeah, I left first, so probably Ari.
Stop it.
Ari, as you're beginning to make your way towards the cart, you hear a voice from inside.
Hello?
Oh, well, I just don't know about all that. Oh, what? Excuse me. Yes.
Excuse me, this is our cart. I think you may be lost.
Oh, well, I mean, I did realize that not too long ago, but, there was just this lovely young woman here that I was just having the most amazing conversation with. She was singing this song, and I just couldn't help myself, and I just stumbled in here, and we've just been sitting here talking for darling, it's been nearly 6 hours. My name is Libby, by the way. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Ari, pleasure's mine.
Yes, darling.
So, tell me, Libby, do you like to play cards?
Oh, well, I ain't had a game that I didn't find myself enjoying, miss.
Let's have a game. And Ari kind of just pulls up whatever kind of boxes and things like that are around and starts just shuffling and dealing. So, you say you've been here for the last 6 hours?
Give or take, yes. Suppose the drink sort of makes the mind slow away, and you can sort of forget yourself.
I think I like you. Here. She hands over. Now tell me, what did you hear? You heard singing?
Yes, well, this girl here, she was singing a song, and I just couldn't help myself, whenever my son, I used to sing him the most beautiful songs, I would like to think, and I heard a voice, and I had to come and see. Bit of a tug at my heartstrings, as it were.
And what kind of... Wait, hang on. You have a son?
Of sorts. It's a bit of a sensitive subject.
I guess we all have those. Ace of Spades.
Sort of just looks through her cards and quietly lays down a card.
Well played. So, you just thought, why not? Let's just wander into a cart and listen to the music. Did the music tell you anything?
I was doing more than just listening. I was struck up a whole conversation with you. I sometimes find that if we just don't indulge ourselves from time to time, those things that pull at us, then our life becomes quite boring. And, I'm not too interested in living some sort of life that I'm just going to be scuttling by, ignoring everything that I feel myself drawn to. You ever been drawn to something before that just pulled you so hard that you couldn't resist yourself?
I feel like I'm talking to a mirror. Ari's just kind of like getting more and more fond, just like, she's saying all the right things, just vague, but just relatable enough. Tell me, are you someone who maybe knows. Are you from here? Are you from here? Are you from here, or are you an import, export, whatever the words are? I'm not one of words.
I suppose you call me a traveler of sorts. No, I'm not from this beautiful city, as it were.
Beautiful is one way to put it.
I enjoy the green.
Have to admit, it's the first time I've ever laid eyes upon it myself. I'm used to a lot more browns and blacks and grays. I
You find
don't
something
think.
that pops into you that's sort of different. Makes your spark light up a little bit. Your insides kind of burn and get you a little excited.
Adventure has always been something that I like to live by.
Sort of winks at
What's
her.
the point if you're not doing anything that's not fun?
Of course. Life's meant to be fun. Within reason. We all gotta handle our business, of course.
Oh, I got to survive. So, tell me, you weren't here just to listen to the music. You must have been here trying to find something else too.
Well, I suppose that I could be looking for a number of things. Happiness, love. Maybe a bit of trade here, there. I find myself wandering a bit here recently with all this hubbub and madness, starting to explode more than, well, what I'm used to, really. What madness exists in this world. Suppose place.
Looking for a place to just stay for the night?
A place
Or-
a place that I could settle a bit more. It's lonely traveling these trains by yourself, town to town. Hard to meet those that understand you and of a like mind.
I think I might just know a few things. I may be new here, but give me a moment. I have someone I need to talk to. Stay and listen to the music. And Ari's gonna basically wander up to try and find Sky as quickly as possible.
Sky at this point is walking in already. He's
There
behind
you are! You
Don't
meet.
worry about.
And she just pushes and plops her down.
Darling.
And
She's
you
looking
are?
for a place to stay with people. She's looking for someone with trade and adventure.
I mean, there's plenty of inns in town. Passenger cars up ahead if you're looking to
But
travel.
She could
none
hear
of
the
them
singing.
have this voice that I want to listen to. Tell me.
What voice are you talking about? Mine? You do have a sweet voice. Sounds like home. You must be from Dunslow too.
Perhaps I am. But I tell you, the voice that I'm hearing, it may be similar to yours. It holds a pitch. But it ain't yours. It's this lovely girl here that's singing her songs. Talking. She's quite a charmer.
Get out.
How you so bothered? Been enjoying ourselves here, haven't we, darling?
I do like to play.
Sky looks to Lyra, and sees that she seems perfectly fine with her presence, and a little bit confused as to why Sky told her to leave. And he'll quickly walk over to her, Lyra, sitting in her bunk. Be like, what did she tell you? You tell her.
She didn't tell me none of y'all secrets, darling, from when you were a kid. Don't worry. Ain't no baby pictures are pulled out on you. Nothing naked in the bathtub.
They're not that interesting anyway. Really boring, very sentimental stuff.
Why are you here? Really, why are you here?
As I was telling this beautiful woman here, I heard a song as I was looking for my own car. I might have had a little drink. Stop in the town.
You know, you don't just wander into a place like this.
I said there was a pool with the song, darling. I can explain myself again if you want. Something of an ear. Sweet voice. Almost mournful. Singing on her own. My heart just went. Distant.
Your place.
Many of us really have a place in this world.
No, but yours ain't here.
We asked this lovely girl here. Obviously, if you think you her keeper.
That turns to Lyra for a second and just kind of asks. He thinks and turns back to you and says, "What's your intention? You just trying to catch a ride somewhere?"
I don't owe you any ill will here. Suppose I did want to catch a ride. I wanted some good conversation and song and people. Boy, it gets mighty lonely traveling on your own for so long. And when you find something that finds you a things at once, yours to hold and touch, and you get to hear it.
She really does have a way with words.
You don't want me here, I can go. I don't want to impede on your anything. You know, I just feel like I'd made some...
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Well, you can call me Libby.
Libby. Listen. We're not just some friends traveling south towards Aruvia. We've got a business to run. We can't just have stowaways, stragglers coming along with us just because they like the song. That's not true. She seems to enjoy your company. You're gonna have to we could use some extra help, I suppose. But that means
We should have an initiation.
Well, that sounds like it ran time. Darling, I don't mind
I'll get the
helping
balloon.
out. I don't mind. Besides, I think you're kind of stuck with me at this point unless you're going to throw me off this train as it's shooting down them rails.
And that's where Hocus steps into the car. You'll have to pardon my eavesdropping, but moments ago, while you were talking about this with him, you said that you were on your way to your car when you heard this song. So clearly you have somewhere else to be on this train.
Good, yes. I could leave right now and I could go, supposedly, but as I said before, I was just drawn here, and I'm not someone that likes to ignore those things that pull at you. Can't you all hear this voice singing? I know this one can.
I believe all present can. And do.
So when the singing stops, are you planning on going to your car?
If I'm not wanted, I could go.
After all, this isn't Coachella.
Perhaps that wound is still a bit too fresh, Ari. But as he mentioned, he could use some help, but then that begs the question, what help could you offer?
As the man says.
Well, I'd like to think myself quite a skilled person. A woman traveling must have many skills, right, darling? She sort of winks at Ari.
I was going to say, 'cause that's right about where Hocus is. I kind of look over at Ari.
I'm quite skilled with my hands. Thought with my words. Voice. Tinkering with things, little things. Making things. Oh, I love to be creative.
She's going to kind of lean over to Sky and say how people don't normally make me feel uneasy yet intrigued, but right now I'm starting to feel like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
I understand the sentiment.
And at that moment, you feel a lurch as the train begins to slowly begin to move.
Well then, I guess you're here now and we can't change that. Cards, anyone?
Side door and pull it closed.
You make one misstep, we throw you off this train. You understand that?
At your will, what you'd like to do with me, once you spend a little time. I am your guest, of course.
Well then, would you like a drink? We've got some really good ales, I believe, unless I drank them all. Do we have any left? And Ari starts like kind of starting to almost play over elaborate hostess.
Can I pull out like a big bottle of like gin? Well, this new darling, I might have brought my own to the party as I was.
Oh, I do like you. And she sits down and just pulls out her mug and expectantly waits for it to be filled up.
She obliges gracefully, of course.
And unless anybody has anything else, I think we should call that scene there.
Yeah.
Okay. So first off, want to say welcome. That was awesome. An awesome introduction. Very good. The train begins to pull out of the station and move along the tracks towards the southern exit for the rail yard from the Imperial City. Interesting thing begins to happen as you realize that the hour is the 12th hour now, as it begins to move into the night, essentially the bottom half of the clock. As you're noticing, the lights are beginning to dim around the entire city. Individual lights in buildings are still twinkling very bright. But the city lights, the lights all around the streets, the lamp posts, all begin to dim as if going into a sense of dusk. And it gives Hocus this painful sense of longing, a combination of sadness and nostalgia for all of those sunsets that he had seen before. And as the train moves through the lightning barrier out into the Deathlands again, the screaming, the shaking, the rattling begins. So where do we find you guys? What do we find you guys doing? Should we call this the downtime actions?
Sure.
In preparation for arriving in Udwasha.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
So, couple things. Number one, I think that Libby deserves downtime actions as well, because I think her introduction was excellent, and I think it is a perfect opportunity for her to experience those as well. I also want to call the negotiation with tips an actual score. So that will be where her downtime actions are coming from a technical perspective, which also means that the rest of the crew gets 4 downtime actions.
Okay.
Because you've got 2 coming from the end of the last season plus the 2 more. So if you guys want to think about them quickly, we'll talk about the journey very quickly leading all the way to Udwasha. And I believe that's where you guys want to end up. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the trip, if you want to move back to the map real quick, Speedy,
Yeah.
I'll ping a couple things. So the trip between the Imperial City here and South Point is just like everything else, right? It is scary, crazy. There's all kinds of noise and shaking. Something very peculiar happens when you get past South Point. And this is something that Hocus remembers as a part of the trip in going north. Things get eerily quiet. And all you hear is the crashing of the waves against this, the structure that is the bridge between. There are pylons and there are, great beams that have been constructed as the rail goes across the Void Sea between South Point and Bright Harbor. But it is eerily quiet. And other than the waves and the wailing of the wind occasionally, it is a brief moment of rest and silence in comparison. It's almost soothing because the rhythm of the car as it's swaying, going down the track, almost lulls you into a sleep. And when you arrive on the other side to Bright Harbor, you go from the ocean proper, the Void Sea proper, into the building. Into the lightning barrier. And it's just like still another bit of silence, but it's different as the train slows and does a quick change, refueling, watering, and then making that final journey down to Udwasha, which on this map is for some reason titled Lakewood.
Lakewood.
Not true. I don't understand. Everything else is accurate. This must be an older version of the map for some reason or whatever. But anyways, that journey is treacherous because it takes you through mountains, and the train jostles as it climbs up and down, and it gives Ari at first a sense of amusement that there are actual mountains that you're climbing and going down, but between the twists and the turns and some of the speed that is picked up in the going down some of these into these valleys makes her a little bit sick.
She's at first going to treat it like a roller coaster. She's just like, woo! Oh, God. Like, this.
I'm thinking about it now.
Anybody who's ever spent a lot of time on a roller coaster knows that the fun lasts for a little while, and then you regret eating 30 hot dogs.
30 bratwursts,
And so it is in that mountainous up and down that actually takes the longest amount of time between Udwasha and the rest of the world. Which is why, it's a couple of days of climbing in and out through the mountains because of the treacherous nature of it. However, there is still a bit of a brief reprieve from all of the noise and the madness because in most cases the vehicle has to move slower, but there is less attacks, there's less screaming, but it's still there and off in the distance. But there's also different noises that you hear too. Lower grumbling and growling and booming just noises. Some combination of animal and thunder. And there's occasionally rain just kind of pelting, but it is quick and then it disappears. And that's where we find you guys doing your downtime actions. So who would like to go first? You missed it, Ari. There's going to be 4 downtime actions for all of the existing players because the score or the conversation with tips actually ends up being a score. So we'll do payoff and all of that really quickly around that as well. But go ahead and start thinking about your downtime actions. So payoff really quickly. What do you guys think that was in respect to coin? How do you guys think you did there? What kind of a deal was that?
I think we did surprisingly well overall. We did manage to, yeah, and we're talking about bringing in medical and recreational supplies. We've made a deal with someone who's legitimate and someone who's, a bit shady. So we made a few good business deals here.
Right.
We should be able to skim some good stuff off the top.
Okay, so that to me sounds like either 6 or 8 coin, depending upon how lucrative you think that's going to be. I agree that I think it's because of the multiple facets of it, right? The medical supplies, the drugs that are involved, and the exposure to Tips' business generally. I think that it's more 8 coin than 6. Does everybody agree on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to call that 8 coin. We're going to go with just the straight up 2 by default for rep. And that being that Tips isn't a faction in and of itself, himself, but him being in Doskval, in the Imperial City, kind of changes things up for a bit. You guys are tier 3, I believe, still, right? Or did you finally hit tier 4?
No, we're tier 3.
I think.
Okay. Yeah, he would still be lower than you if he was still in Doskval, but because you guys were in the Imperial City and he was there already working deals, you're about the same in respect to the level of, I guess, power, if you wanted to call it that. So that's payoff. Let's talk about heat. I am generally inclined to believe that you guys got 0 heat for this all around. And the reason is that not only was it a low exposure kind of a situation, Tips isn't a high profile target. Situation did not happen in hostile territory. You're not at war with him or anybody in the Imperial City. And surprisingly, there was no murder involved. So I think
we're getting better, guys.
A little bit more time with Ari and Tips in the same room.
Tips.
Something might have happened. But...
Yeah, I think that might probably would be. Also, the fact that you guys were in the Imperial City means that, you only made 2 or 3 basic contacts. You didn't have enough time to really get yourselves into some serious troubles here. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So what is your wanted level and heat at this point?
Wanted level is... Actually, I think... Because we sent Jinx to prison, we cleared our wanted
because
level.
Because you cleared up your wanted level.
That would also clear our heat, so we have none all around.
You are wow. So you were the second group to get to 0 this week, surprisingly. The Void did that earlier this week. So with that in mind, I'm going to roll entanglements off screen privately, and then we're going to start with downtime. Who would like to go first?
I will.
Okay, great. So just for Kitty's perspective, for Libby's perspective, there are a set of downtime actions that you can take. Things like acquiring an asset, a long-term project, training, indulging vice, all of those. I think it'll be obvious immediately which ones might be the best thing for you to take in the short term. But if you have any questions, just please go ahead and jump in as any one of them are taking it, and then that way you are a little bit more prepared when you're ready to go. So what would you like to do with your first downtime action, Hocus?
Well, if nothing else, then for Kitty's benefit, I'm going to ask, and because I don't remember, training, what?
Training, in your attributes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you train an attribute, and then when you fill that bar for an attribute, you then can get a new pip in one of your actions.
Okay, then.
So little circles.
No.
Yes.
The lines. Oh yeah, pip is the circles. Sorry.
Now we do not yet have the thing that lets us go to 4 pips, right? What we do?
I don't believe that you guys have taken that yet. Have you taken the essentially the mastery?
Okay.
No.
I think that's the thing that, as Void was talking about on Tuesday, and then Grimjack was in chat with them. It is the most painful thing to get, but it is worth it if you can get it, because having that 4 in a tune or that 4 in skirmish or whatever changes the your base ability to do some awesome stuff.
So
actually, real quick, did we say how much rep we got? I didn't mark it down.
2.
Okay.
And training gives me 1 thing in whatever attribute.
Whatever, unless there are upgrades. There are upgrades for each, right? So if you train, if there are essentially crew upgrades for each attribute or the playbook advancement. And what that does is, if you have that, it goes from 1 to 2 when you train. So 1 to 2 XP.
Okay. So if I wanted to train insight right now, I have 2 empty spaces in insight.
That's correct.
So if I wanted to train that would be 1, right?
I don't know. Do you have the upgrade, Sky? Do you know?
For
insight?
No, we have it for
Prowess.
Prowess. Oh, wait a minute. So okay. All right. So for prowess. Okay. So yeah, you would only be 1 then.
Okay. So then 2 of my downtime actions are going to be to train insight. So that would be then 2.
Okay.
1 pip to put into Tinker.
Okay. Sounds good.
And so I have 2 more downtime actions left.
Do you want to start a long-term project to prepare for something going on in Udwasha? Or do you want to acquire an asset that will then be available to you in Udwasha?
See, it's difficult for me from a narrative perspective, it's difficult for me to justify that because I have no idea what the hell is going on.
Sure, but that coin that she gave you kind of was like, carte blanche in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but I would have no idea what asset to gather or what long-term project to start because I don't know what's going on.
Sure. But you do have a past in the city, so there may be something that you want to do. Maybe there's a modification to your hook that you want to take, or there's some other ritual that you want to perform that's related to strengthening your control in the ghost field. Maybe something related to your spirit mask. I'm just trying to give you options about something to kind of presuppose what you're going to be getting yourself into. Legitimately, I'm just trying to think of what Hocus would do in preparation to going home.
Hocus's supposition is that if the well has not just slowed but stopped consuming souls, and that means that anything that used to be restricted to outside of the range of the well is now going to be anywhere in the city. So yes, I'm going to start a long-term project with the thing.
Oh, okay. So what is that?
He is going to make some modifications to his robes.
Okay.
He is going to start, if he can find somewhere on board the train a source of thread, because he makes rope, not thread. But he will start working on sewing different arcane runes into the lining of the robes to try to grant a greater resistance. Basically, weaving a spirit ward into his robes.
Is this something that his uncle or somebody else in his family probably would have taught him, and this is just something that he hasn't done for reasons? Or is this something new that you're doing?
It's kind of new. He knew his great aunt, the Loom, but he was very, very, very young when he knew her.
Okay.
And she, I believe, is either dead. I haven't ascertained whether she's dead or still alive, but of course he hasn't seen her in a long time. But she would have taught him some aspect, but because he didn't work with thread, he never really practiced them all that much. So it is effectively new. He understands what he has to do, but he has no practice doing it. It's like, I know how to make a clay pot on a pottery wheel. I can't do it, but I know what I need to do. I understand the mechanics of it. I just have no practice with it.
Okay. So given that explanation, I would think that it makes sense that this is actually a 4-segment clock. Given that there you have some exposure, you have an idea what you would want to do, and all the other training that you had gone through prior to leaving Udwasha, the only reason it really is a 4-segment clock is because you would be rediscovering that, things that you were taught essentially as a child, right? Things that you were conveyed as a child, you would be rediscovering that knowledge and skill, not so much, figuring out for the first time kind of a thing. So why don't you call that a 4-segment clock?
Okay.
And what you just leveled up in Tinker. Is that what you're going to choose to follow through with that?
I have 1 pip now, so
okay,
I could certainly do that.
Well, if there's something else that you think makes sense, I mean, if this is an attune thing.
Well, it kind of is.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because I wasn't sure.
Well, it's sort of both. I mean, there's the mechanical aspect of actually sewing the glyphs into the robes, but there's also the arcane aspect of enchanting those runes once they're there.
Right. Okay, so let's call it an attune then.
Okay.
And I'm starting the clock now on the screen. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Hello?
It's complete. I can see it. All 4 segments are full. Damn it.
Okay. So again, go ahead and roll it. No position, no
effect, no bonus.
No effect. This is actually one of those situations where you might be able to consult somebody for an assist. Would you engage anybody, at least maybe in the sewing? Because the imbuing would be something that I think that Hocus would understand or do, but the act of not only sewing, or maybe just getting the shape correct so that the symbol works, that might be something that you might consult somebody else with who might have a skill in tailoring or in a crafting of some other way. Even a physiker might be somebody you would talk to, because they also would sew somebody up essentially.
Very finely, yeah. I was going to say he's used to making the arcane shapes. That's how he put the spirit locks on everything.
Right.
So it's a little different when you're writing them versus when you're sewing. So,
right. Exactly.
Well, I mean, Ari has been our physiker on a couple of occasions.
Yes.
I'm very good with my hands.
Okay.
Tips told us so. Yes, that was very true.
I wasn't there for that, so.
Because
Vivi did say she was good with her hands though as well, and you were there for that.
What?
yeah, I mean, Sling has given me some good feedback. Sky's given me good feedback.
Yeah,
Grin
5
did
stars on
too.
Whatever site doc
Handiwork.
for ratings.
But yeah, I also, disguises and things like that. So I would have to be able to have some sort of skill in.
You are
putting
very handy with those disguises.
together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then yes, he will enlist Ari's assistance.
Okay. Because of the long trip, this would be a situation where I don't think it involves stress at all. So go ahead and make that roll with an additional die.
Okay, I was about to say with a bonus. 6.
Very nice. Okay.
Nice.
So you get through. The process begins, right? And you do this, and so after a couple of false starts and some work with Ari, you get the shape that you're looking for, and you've got it all mapped out, and slowly, and so you're halfway there, right? If you were to use, because you got 3 segments out of the clock, right? If you were to use your next downtime action, that would complete, and being a Spirit Bane. So, but you're halfway there. So the next time that you do this project, you're basically done with it. You've completed it. Do you want to go ahead and use your 4th downtime action to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what does the design look like for this Spirit Bane on your robe? how does it fit into the intricate designs that are already there?
The robes that he wears, they're kind of twofold, no pun intended. There are the sub robes that go across his body, but there's also kind of the cowl that wraps around and ultimately becomes the hood that covers most of the rest of his face. The under robes are the ones that carry most of the runes along the breastline, but the wrap that goes around doesn't really have much. So what he does is, using the symbol of the 4 demon princes that are supposedly contained within those crystals around the well, uses their symbols for the various houses and sews them 4 across around the thing, kind of an arch.
Okay. And we call that the end of your downtime actions, or do you want to spend coin or rep to go one more?
I was wringing my brain trying to come up with that. So I don't
Okay.
have anything.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. I just wanted to give you the option. Do we want to go a little long, get everybody's downtime actions done really quickly if everybody's ready, or do we want to cut here and start next time with downtime actions?
I don't mind saying mine because it's kind of funny. But she's...
Are you gonna do your vice?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have any stress right now, so you definitely don't want to do that.
Well,
She could overindulge. I don't think that's a problem. I mean, it was.
You want to overindulge?
Straight away.
Okay.
Let's bring it.
I feel like
Season 3, let's go.
I feel like in the situation for
Balls
her,
to the wall.
for reasons, she would still be very uncomfortable and would want to try and calm herself and sort of connect to others around her, because as she's sitting sort of talking, it'd be something that she would just do with her hands, honestly.
So with respect to your vice, I mean, we talked a fair bit about this last night, and I absolutely love it. There's also this idea that you could instead call it a long-term project, and maybe that's the starting point of you making your little space in this otherwise alien environment. So instead of calling it vice, let's call it a long-term project, and we'll call it a 4-segment clock. So we're going to start with your downtime actions with a long-term project, and that basically is you're going to roll whatever you think is appropriate from an action perspective, and begin to accomplish that. And why don't you describe what it is so that everybody can understand why we're so amused?
So her vice short-handed version is she makes taxidermy rat dioramas.
I believe that falls under the heading of strange.
That is correct.
So she's good with her hands. She makes little clothes and sews up tiny little creatures and puts them in cute little they're playing poker together.
Well done.
I'm just imagining her doing a whole look, this is your crew on this train.
Of the train.
She's breaking out the popsicle sticks,
This rat is you. See, I did this.
It's
It's
dead
to-
on, but it's a rat, it's the hair and
Yeah.
You don't realize you have a lock missing. She's
Right, that's just fine line, just this chunk, and you're like,
it's fine. Don't worry about it. So no, I mean, I would just think because it'd be something I would, because she's wanting to appear sort of very homely and motherly and very just sort of charming and loving, and so I'd imagine as she's talking to his sister, right, or whatever, they're and sort of him and everyone, she's sort of just making little clothes and sort of just going about her business, drinking and just if she's knitting, probably hasn't broken out the rat or the little guillotines yet. That are in her.
Are we also going to talk about your vice purveyor? Because we may not have noticed at first, but as the train left the station, I imagine just sort of coming out from behind a box You see a cat.
Yeah.
Rat in mouth.
Yeah. Just a cute little gray cat with little white feet. Just sort of comes out and there's just drops a rat amongst her bags.
Oh, this is brilliant.
Oh, don't worry
So-
about him, darling. He's not gonna pee on nothing. Or
You better have a litter box.
listen, he is a well-trained. You don't understand, okay? This cat here, Mr. Whiskers, is one of the greatest mouse catchers you will ever have in your entire life. I saw him once fight down nearly 50 rats and came out on top, and I tell you, that was one of my best-selling months. I was able to create so many things from these beasts. I was honestly a bit worried about him, but I mean, he was, honestly didn't even rip out a single neck as well, so everything was perfectly in place. I think he just goes in there and stabs their little tiny necks with his teeth. I'm not sure quite how he does it, but don't you worry. I'm pretty sure if he can snap the little neck of a mouse, darling, he is not going to be pissing on your clothes. I mean, maybe if you piss him off, he might take a shit in your shoe, but...
This is where Ari would have a moment where she's like walking past Guy and she goes like, and you thought I was the crazy one.
I'm not. I was allergic to cats.
Could be hairless.
So this
is great.
I hope it's not. I really hope it's not. Yeah, exactly. You just said it was gray because that makes this line make sense. So do you travel with this cat, or does the gray mouse travel with you?
Well, I like to think it a friend, so why don't we travel together? I think we use a bit of one another.
What is his name?
Well, this is Mr. Whiskers. You see,
Right.
his whiskers, look at them there. They're just, if you really pay attention, they're much longer than normal, which is why I think he's able to sense out all them little rats scurrying around on the ground. He's able to see them a bit better, or feel, well, I suppose seeing wouldn't be the best, not with his eyes, but... No.
So Hocus goes back to what he's doing. I was really hoping, some part of me was really hoping you were going to say his name was Fafford, but okay, whatever. Because Fafford and the Gray Mouse are being D&D reference. Never mind, continue on.
Okay. So that's your vice, but this is a long-term project. What action makes sense for you doing this? Like what is it? What is the crafting action that makes sense so that we can get the mechanical element of this and figure out how interesting this diorama gets when you start it?
I feel like it'd be Tinker. Like, I mean, she's sort of figuring out, like, she'd probably be sketching and getting ideas and planning clothes and...
Okay, so the interesting thing, looking at your character sheet, you don't have any skill in Tinker right now, so it's a little bit of an uncertain situation. So here's what we're gonna do, right? Because this is your first time, we're gonna have you click on that, right? And you're gonna click on the Tinker word, and that's gonna bring up a dialogue. And it's going to ask you for position and effect. So don't worry about either of those. Okay. But you are going to get a bonus 1 die because this is your first time and it's funny as hell.
Okay.
So go ahead and roll that. So click submit through Risky. Yeah. Yep.
Some decent rats. 4.
Wow. Okay. So describe really briefly what this diorama looks like as you start it.
All right. I think she's gonna base her diorama on the beautiful Ari. She has an eye for these things, you know. So she's crafted tiny little, almost like a half square. You look into the opening of it. There's a little. She's sort of. This is more. She's sketching things at this point, right? Because it's something that will take her time. She's sketched it out, and there's a little bar coming out, and patrons, drinks. In the center of this is is the most beautiful rat. Or mouse. I would say rat because they're big enough, right? Use them bigger. And she's just quietly drawn on some of the most exquisite lace. Red. Great.
Ari is going to be watching this the whole time, kind of just like intensely, really
It's
just
only
like,
mildly creepy that she's thought of this. But to her, I think she would think of it as something of flattering, right? A bit of flattery. Like she's inspired by what's around her. She's it's a little bit crazy. It's fine.
oh, Ari's incredibly flattered, but she's like, like probably would say like, no, the hem would be a little higher.
Yeah, I suppose. Like,
Like-
if you want to modify this, and she's sort of like drawing, like really pulling the corset a little bit on this rat.
Yeah.
Nice line there. Pull it in a little bit. Mom always said you shouldn't leave the house without your corsets on.
Always keep your hand on your hate knee.
Of course. As she's sort of just sort of sketching out this, and as she's kind of come upon this idea of what she's going to put, I would assume the most base thing she would start would be like the base structure, the shadow box that it's going to go into. So she has something to sort of work in a size and understand exactly what she's going to do. And then she would move on from there, perhaps to the rats. Which becomes its own thing, and that would be, you know.
Okay, so we're gonna pause there in respect to the downtime actions that are being taken, and we'll continue that next week. And I'm looking forward to hearing what the culmination of involving all the rats is. But just to kind of close this off on a little bit of a cliffhanger of sorts, the whistle begins to, or the bell begins to ring, indicating that very soon, in the next hour or so, the train is going to be pulling into Udwasha. And that descent is a slow descent from a very tall peak into Udwasha proper, as hesitation and apprehension begins to play in Hocus's stomach, as he realizes that this is the homecoming that he never thought would happen. And with that, that's where we're going to end it.
Ooh.
So next week, Udwasha, guys.
Woo!
Awesome job. Amazing RP tonight. And welcome, Kitty. You did phenomenal. Looking forward to see what happens with Libby. All right, back over to you.
Great job on the slap.
I thought you'd like that. I thought you would prefer a slap any day to words.
And yes, Kitty. Awesome. I was expecting something interesting. I was not expecting the Ratarama, and that's fucking brilliant. I love it.
It's weird, but it's still kind of homely, you know. She's.
You guys were talking about it last night when we took the call. That was amazing. That was just like, it was unbelievable.
Everything on the call up until that point had been fairly serious about her backstory, and then it was just like, oh, what's your vice, by the way?
I really wanted that though, because I feel like if I'm gonna have something that's gonna be serious and sort of just like.
You gotta have something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense with everything. Need something to play with.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys all for being here and everything. Let us know what you guys think in chat. Those of you who have been watching, want to get your thoughts. And we can do the same for our players. So we're gonna go around, starting still. That's you.
Yeah. So I'm Trent Sparks. Blah. You heard all that professional voice actor blah 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 bullshit at the beginning. Where will you see me next? On Saturday, I think. Yes, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I think maybe 8 p.m. I don't remember exactly. Watch me on Twitter. Just follow me on Twitter, and you'll know whenever anything. But we're doing a D&D campaign. The next installment of The Rise of Tiamat on Saturday over at Arvan Eleron's. What's the site we're on?
Twitch.
Twitch.
This isn't live Jasmine.
No.
We're not.
Oh, I'm really glad you realized that now.
Right, and this is where I just
I thought this was like the afternoon. What?
damn
I'm
it.
really glad you realized that soon enough.
Do you have a question?
I do. It's specifically for you, and it's because of something you said on Twitter, and I haven't heard the response yet, and I really want to know.
Ari, go ahead.
No. I gotta know now. Are you going to be doing the narration live on Twitch? Did you mentioned something about that? Are you going to be doing that? Remember you said something about like last week or whatever that you were going to be doing the narration on Twitch for some of the books that you were doing?
Oh.
Did that cause a problem?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. No. That not the question didn't. We did a test stream because basically I'm narrating one of the BattleTech novels, and I had asked the guys at Catalyst Game Labs if they would be okay with me doing some of the editing on live stream so that people can see what goes into making an audiobook. And we discovered very quickly that if I try to run Adobe Audition and OBS Studio at the same time, Audition just literally screams like just static and horrible distorted sounds that is just pegging off scale high right into the end, just straight out to the stream, and everybody's like, oh my god, what the hell was that? And then I have to shut basically everything down, and so it just wound up being an 5-hour kind of AMA and bullshitting talking stream thing. So will I do that? It's if I can figure out how.
I'm here to help.
Okay.
All right, good. Then we're going to do that. I'm sorry. I know that Madam Gandalf has to go. I figured I had to ask. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, Madam Gandalf.
Oh, hi. My name is Madam Gandalf. You may know me as Madam Gandalf. You can find me here and everywhere as Madam Gandalf. That's Madam Gandalf with an E, as in Mrs. Gandalf, not I am the Madame of Gandalfs. And so, yeah, I'm a variety caster. I do cooking, pub quizzes, variety of games.
Showers.
What? Showers, singing, streams. Like, you don't know what to expect when it comes to the Green Dragon Tavern. And yeah, we really like to have fun, guys. We like to have fun. Since Mr. Owlbare is not here, I will pass it on to the lovely awkward kitty.
Hi, hello. Tonight was a blast. Honestly, I'm nervous sided because it's been a while since I've done something along these lines, because I normally do ARC roleplay, or it's generally ARC these days. It has been for 2 years, a long time. Which is doing like live improv. If you've never seen it, definitely check it out. I'm gonna be live tomorrow with it. I've been gone all this week, and some crazy shit has gone down, and the season's coming to an end, so we're wrapping everything up tomorrow, so it's definitely gonna be interesting. So if you want to come and say hello and hi, then feel free to do so. We definitely have a good time there. I have a trove of voices and characters that I love to pull out, and the same with the people that are around me, and it's just as much fun coming and doing these things here. So I'm very thankful that I've made so many great friends. Not you here.
Oh,
yeah.
We're not friends.
Wow.
No, yeah, it's been great. Yeah, follow me there. Definitely check out Twitter. Twitter is probably the best way to find out where I'm doing or where I'm live, because I also make arts. Mm-hmm. If you like arts.
She made my profile picture.
I did. Yeah. I also do a lot of traditional oil painting, especially if you like nudes or burlesque women with cat heads. I'm your girl. I will provide.
You not hear her correctly?
Sexual, not
yes.
Burlesque with
you
cat
can
heads.
request men as well. If you want.
The sexuality part, the sex part, or the gender part doesn't. It's the heads, the cat heads. I must see this.
Check out my website, and you can see my portfolio.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I think I will.
Go follow Kitty. She's wonderful, and very happy to have her as a part of this. And Also, the Arc RP that she does is a lot of fun. She introduced me to it as well, so I play on that server, and definitely a lot of things have been going down among the Vikings and barbarians living there. Johnny, why don't you tell us about yourself and everything?
Oh, my name is Johnny. I am the GM for 6 and 20, this crazy thing that we do 3 nights a week. You can find it Tuesday nights on my channel at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Video Store Cowboy is the channel. On Wednesday nights, you can find it over on Unmade Gaming at 8 p.m. Pacific, or 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Where the Shroud tries to pretend like they're the best crew in Duskfall, but literally we know that it's Thursday Night Crew.
Phantom.
It's Phantom, right?
Phantom already won.
We're not.
Phantom already won. That is correct. That has been clipped so many times. And as I say on every stream, whatever night it is, that's the best crew. But anyways, yeah. So you can find all my information in chat. Thanks, you guys. It was amazing tonight. Again, welcome, Kitty. Did a phenomenal job. Love the RP tonight. You guys did amazing. I always feel very lucky to be running a game with you at the table. So thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for continuing to do this crazy, ridiculous thing that we do. It's been really cool. Thank you guys all for being here. My name is Speedy. This is my channel, NotSoSpeedRuns, where you can come by and watch me playing other games sometimes, including some Arc roleplay as I've been doing lately. Also, in terms of Blade things, make sure that you go and follow Johnny and Unmade Gaming. If you want to see the full story of what is going on in this world, you can also catch up on old episodes on YouTube. The link is in chat. We also have merchandise. The link is also in chat. And be sure to follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at NotSoSpeedRuns. You can also follow Blade620 on Twitter for updates on this game specifically. That is all that we have for tonight, I believe, except that I need to find someone to raid, and I haven't been looking at all this entire time.
Oh my God, you're terrible.
Why did no one tell me to do
streamer.
this? That's not what I wanted to do.
Eric's streaming.
Is he? Let's go raid Eric Vulgaris.
Yeah, he's doing Jungle Crawl Classics. I think it's the inaugural show of that.
Oh yeah. Who's on that? Is it important?
I have no idea. I just know that he started it. So
whether or not they're important, isn't that important. I just wanted to know if I knew them. If it was like, if he was playing with like Sean or John. Not regardless. I'm going to raid him.
I believe Sean is on, and also his overlay is crazy.
Dude, Eric makes some goddamn awesome overlays. So
yeah, he
raid
does.
command is in chat right there. Go ahead and copy and paste that raid command. Go over to his channel. We're gonna host him. Send him some love. If you're into more role-playing content like this, if you're into Blades in the Dark, definitely go follow Eric. He's awesome. He also makes some really awesome overlays, and he's open for commissions for that kind of thing too. So you definitely just all around really awesome guy. I'm glad that I got the chance to hang out with him at PAX Unplugged. So that is all that we have. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you all next time, and as always, don't forget, take it slow.
Be careless.